Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. In this evening's South Carolina primary, Ron Paul took fourth place with 13% of the votes. The winner of the primary was, very unfortunately, Newt Gingrich with a little over 40% of the votes, followed by Mitt Romney with 27% and Rick Santorum with 17%. So, what is the significance of the South Carolina primary? In my opinion, and I think the facts will bear this out, very little. Very little significance whatsoever. And here is why. First of all, what is the total delegate count for the Republican National Convention? We have to always be conscious of that when we are considering this race. It is 2,286. Thus far, only at most 62 delegates have been accounted for to any extent, from Iowa, from New Hampshire, and from South Carolina. So far, only 3 primary or caucus events have taken place. Now, some pundits in the media are beginning to say, well, Ron Paul should drop out because of his fourth place finish. I say absolutely not, and he is not going to do that. He has signaled in his speech in South Carolina that his determination is to continue on. And I think the race is just getting interesting, because what has happened in South Carolina that is of significance is the narrative of Romney as the inevitable candidate has been shattered. Now, Mitt Romney no longer even has a remote claim to having won all of the contests thus far. The only one he can claim to have clearly won is New Hampshire. Now that in Iowa, a recount has showed a slight edge for Rick Santorum, of course, not one that would affect the delegate count. In South Carolina, Newt Gingrich has won, so the race is wide open, and there are many more opportunities for Ron Paul to win as well. 13% of the vote is respectable, and Ron Paul continues to steadily increase in terms of the public support that he gets, despite the sometimes virtual blackout in mainstream media coverage that he receives. It's very interesting because in South Carolina, the establishment has tried every dirty trick in their playbook. They denied Ron Paul adequate coverage during the debates. They denied Ron Paul adequate coverage during the discussions after the debates. They aimed loaded questions at him. They packed the audience with brutes and jingoists, at least for the Fox News debate, and for the CNN debate, where I think CNN, while it is very biased against Ron Paul, tries to be somewhat more genteel than Fox in expressing its bias. So CNN perhaps didn't pack the audience as much. And when John King, the moderator, tried to skip Ron Paul, who is an obstetrician and gynecologist by profession, with regard to a medical question, the audience booed, and the audience insisted that Ron Paul be allowed to speak. So despite the suppression of coverage of Ron Paul, this grassroots sentiment, this love of liberty that many Americans still possess, is breaking through. And now that nobody really knows who the default candidate or the anticipated frontrunner is, the field is quite open for Ron Paul to make his move and to deliberately, strategically place himself in a very advantageous position. This race isn't about popularity contests, it's ultimately about delegates. And Ron Paul's campaign knows this. They're working in Iowa right now to obtain as many delegates as they can throughout the caucus process. There are very good prospects for that. The next state Ron Paul is going to focus on is my state, Nevada. Ron Paul had a very strong second place finish there, and actually, in terms of the caucus process, Ron Paul could have won Nevada in terms of delegates were it not that at the state convention, the Nevada Republican Party essentially executed a coup and violated the rules, essentially shut down the delegate nomination process right when Ron Paul was about to get a majority of delegates to be sent to the National Convention. Of course, Nevada voters actually retaliated against the chairwoman of the Nevada Republican Party at the time, Sue Loudon, when she tried to run for Senate in 2011. She didn't win her own party's nomination because the people remembered. There's not very much to be disappointed about the South Carolina finish. I think Ron Paul did very well considering all of the mudslinging that was directed at him both by the formal mainstream media and by, let's just say, heinous individuals who have the same objective, like Jerry Brower of the Stop Ron Paul 2012 Facebook group. And furthermore, don't be surprised if Ron Paul's attention isn't focused that much on the upcoming Florida primary. There's a very simple reason for that. Florida is a winner-take-all state. So candidates who finish second or third, even if they're very close in terms of the popular vote in the primary, don't get anything. It's a very risky investment, and it's a very expensive investment to gamble on trying to be first in Florida. And I don't think Ron Paul is going there. His campaign has amassed a good deal of money from grassroots donations, and that money will give him staying power, but only if it is used wisely. Neither Newt Gingrich nor Rick Santorum has as much money as Ron Paul right now, which is why I believe that Santorum's finish in Iowa and Gingrich's finish in South Carolina are not indicators of future promising performance. Rather, they're one-time surges, in essence. One thing that we've seen about Ron Paul is his campaign has deviated from all the others in terms of the pattern. The pattern for all the others has been to surge about a week before a particular contest. Santorum had a surge in Iowa, Huntsman had a surge in New Hampshire, and Gingrich had a surge in South Carolina, and then to fizzle. So, Santorum and Gingrich may fizzle, but not before they maybe take a lot of delegates away from Romney. Furthermore, of all the campaigns, Ron Paul's is certainly the best organized and the most motivated. In a lot of states, Virginia is a very good example. Most of the candidates failed to make it on the ballot, and only Ron Paul and Mitt Romney made it on the ballot. So, if Newt Gingrich can take away delegates from Mitt Romney in states where Newt Gingrich is on the ballot, then Mitt Romney has fewer delegates going into the convention from the other states. Ron Paul can also take away delegates from Mitt Romney in the states where only Ron Paul is competing directly against Mitt Romney. And this is going to be very interesting because at the National Convention itself, we're going to have a very fractured field of delegates. Anything can happen up to and including the day of the convention. So I'm watching this with great interest, and I'm participating in it. In my own state of Nevada, I am doing my part to try to get Ron Paul to win the Nevada caucus. There is still a lot of hope. Don't listen to the mainstream media. Don't listen to their emphasis, overemphasis, on a few preliminary contests. About 97.6% of the delegates are still completely unaccounted for, and they could support anyone. That's the message we need to take away from the results in South Carolina. I wish Dr. Ron Paul and his campaign the very best, and I wish you a good night.